After struggling for grip all day and cutting a tire during a battle with Justin Allgaier, AJ Allmendinger missed the cutoff to get into the championship 4. Now, this is despite the fact that Allmendinger had won the regular season championship, only has 5 finishes outside the top 10 all season, one of which was this weekend's race at Martinsville. And according to Racing Reference, in a straight-up full season points battle, he would have a 43-point advantage on Noah Gragson going into the final race, which would almost guarantee him the championship unless something were to go horribly wrong and Gragson were to have a great race himself. Kobe, do you have a problem with Allmendinger missing the championship 4 entirely based on the season that he's had?
Oh, Ben, that is a really tough one to swallow. AJ Allmendinger has had such a strong season in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. AJ Allmendinger missing out on the championship entirely. It would have been like, Kyle Larson last year, considering the season that he had. And Kyle Larson didn't win that championship in 2021. It would have been a really bad look. And I think that this is also not a good look for the Xfinity Series. AJ Allmendinger, who's had one of the strongest seasons of his racing career, and as he can finish in the points as 5th, he's not going to be able to go out there and compete for a championship. If AJ had advanced to the championship 4, I think he would have had a legitimate shot to take home a championship and 43-point advantage. Yeah, right there. If under the regular system, if he had that 43-point advantage, basically just start the race, score stage points, and then you're basically good, and you're going to be the Xfinity Series champion. Now, the only thing AJ can do, is just try to have one good final race with his Xfinity program, because next year I'm moving back to the Cup Series full time.
Yeah, well, and I know that people always throw this argument out there, and I'm hesitant to myself because I understand that in a non-playoff era, the racing would be different. Drivers would go on different strategies. They might not take certain risks, and I want to be clear as well. I believe that this chart that you see here on the right, that includes the 30-point penalty that Gragson got after his deal at Road America. Obviously, that's kind of erased when, well, not kind of, it is erased when you reset it for the playoffs and the actual standings, which you see there on the left. But, people always tell me all the time, I don't have to explain where I stand when it comes to the playoff system and everything. I am in favor of a full season championship. I've always been. And people will come to me and they say, we can't talk about that anymore. This is just how it's done now. And my response to that would be, if that's how it's done, why does the chart that you're looking at on the screen right now even exist? Why is Racing Reference, which is owned by NASCAR, going through all the effort to keep track of this? If it doesn't matter, if it's not relevant or interesting to look at all, why do we even have an official site that is owned by NASCAR keeping track of it and logging these statistics here? And AJ Allmendinger has had a phenomenal career renaissance with Kaulig here since he's gotten into the Xfinity Series. He's the back-to-back regular season champion. As far as I'm concerned, it should either be him or Gragson, who has the strongest case as champion this year. We'll know for sure after Phoenix, I guess, who has the most points tallied throughout the year. But there's no reason for him to be finishing 5th in the championship point standings and that be where he's capped here. And I think that, after a season that he's had here, maybe not quite as dominant in regards to wins as Kyle Larson had in the Cup Series last year, but I think, obviously I understand the playoffs are not going anywhere. This is the system and the era that we are living in right now. But I think, I know people have thrown the idea out there in the past, like maybe the regular season champion should get a bite of a championship 4. I don't know that the reaction would be great if we went that far, but I think you need to consider upping the bonus points that the regular season champion gets or something like that, because for the regular season champion to have a season like AJ Allmendinger's had and it still not be enough for him to make it even to Phoenix with a shot of a championship. I mean, we were talking on this show after they reset it, after he won the regular season championship, they reset the points and he drops to 4th immediately. Now that just, regardless of what you think of the system, if that's the case, if that's even possible, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, I think that, even if you are a defender of the playoff system and like the unpredictability and the entertainment that it brings, I think you have to acknowledge that there are some deep flaws in it. If, what the season that Allmendinger had, if he's not even going to be eligible to race for a championship, I think we need to take a look at some reform there.
And also brings into question, the legitimacy of winning a NASCAR championship in this playoff system. You could say, looking at the season AJ Allmendinger has, he would be a well-deserving champion this year in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Yeah, and this is, a repetitive conversation that we've had many times on this show. We've had it in the past, we're having it today, and we're probably going to be having it many times in the future. And I brought up previous program about Denny Hamlin being on Danica Patrick's pretty intense podcast. He's talking about he'd rather win 60 races, instead of winning a championship. And in the past, you win a NASCAR championship, you have truly done something. I think it's kind of telling, when drivers, I be like, I'd rather set a certain number of races I want to win, or I just want to win the Daytona 500. I want to win the Bristol Night Race. I want to win the Cook 600. Hey, I'll be satisfied if I don't win a championship. It's sad, that it seems like that winning a championship in NASCAR doesn't have the same prestige as it used to in the past.
Well, Kevin Harvick got on Zoom after Martinsville in 2020. And again, that was another situation where he won a quarter of the races that year. And, you look at his season and there's no reason that he shouldn't at least have a shot at the championship. He doesn't make the championship for, and he got on Zoom and said, the championship is kind of a bonus. I'd rather just go out and win races and run as strong as we can every week. And the fact that Harvick's a NASCAR champion himself coming out and saying that, I think is very telling. I think what Denny Hamlin said on Danica's podcast is also very telling. And, I want to bring up one final thing here before we move on. I know I always bring the whose line is it anyway catchphrase into these conversations, in a jokingly manner. Everything's made up and the points don't matter. This is a screenshot that I took of the playoff leaderboard at the time that Brandon Jones was leading in the Xfinity race. Ty Gibbs was locked in on points. Gregson and Berry already had their wins, obviously. And with Jones leading, NBC literally showed that the points from 5th to 8th didn't matter because everybody else who was locked in Gibbs already had the advantage that he had in the points. And obviously with Jones leading, that would have been a win for him in addition to the 2 for Gregson and Berry. So again, I just think that, I know people like the system for the chaos and the unpredictability, but I think it is still deeply flawed. And if we're not going to get rid of it entirely and go back to a full season championship, we need to look at, allowing certain changes to be made, because I don't think there's any reason AJ Allmendinger shouldn't have a shot at a championship next week at Phoenix based on the season he's had, just as I didn't think Kevin Harvick deserved to be locked out of a championship for Phoenix in 2020 based on the season that he had there in the Cup Series. Hey everyone, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you so much for watching. Before you go, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Grid Network highlights and analysis. And for full episodes of Grid Live Encore and other Grid programming, subscribe directly to Grid Network.